Hello and welcome to the Motor Trader webinar with Impel on AI in action, how dealers are boosting profit and performance. I'm John Kerwin, Motor Trader's editor, and today I'll be the link man for the webinar. We have a strong panel representing franchise and independent dealers and a technology expert in AI from Impel. A few quick intros before we get to questions. First up, we have John Smyth. John's a director with Swansway Motor Group, a family-run dealership group established in 2003 by his father Michael and run with brothers David and Peter. Based in Crewe, Cheshire, the business has around 30 sites and has over £900 million turnover annually. We have Michael Bell. Michael is CEO of Available Car. Again, a family-owned business, in this case, a used car supermarket group. Michael took on the CEO role in 2019. Available Cars has large-scale sites across the Midlands, and under Michael, the business has embraced digital transformation in a big way. And on the technical side, we have Matthew Muilenburg. Matthew is our Chief Product Officer at Impel. Matt is a leading player when it comes to development of AI power for the motor sector, and he's very strong and has helped shape the role of conversational AI in retail operations. So welcome to the three of you. Welcome to the hundreds of you who have tuned in today to take part in the webinar. So first up, a question for John Smyth and then Michael Bell. To cut to the crunch, what's your take on how AI is showing up in UK dealerships right now? Is it early stages or is it maturing? Just give us your take on it. First, John.
Yeah, first of all, good afternoon. There's not a day goes by where I don't get an email in my inbox or a call whereby they're going to say AI, someone's trying to sell AI to me and that is going to change my life. We all have very complicated DMSs and they don't always do what we want them to do. And obviously people see opportunities whereby they can try and make our life easier. And consequently, we've taken up certain AI things that have resulted in that. The problem is the DMSs are very complex and people are promising the world. What we've got to ascertain is what's going to give us return on investment, whether it be savings in costs or increased sales. So yeah, it is happening. I don't think it's mature yet, but there are some solutions out there that can certainly help in your day-to-day sales and how you operate.
Okay, thanks, John. And Michael, what's your take on it?
Yeah, afternoon, everyone. And I think it's one of those really fun things at the moment when you look at AI. Just like John said, my inbox is full of people offering different kinds of solutions in different areas, but it's complex as to how you can make that work within your specific situation of dealership and your tech stack. The way we look at it's still pretty early doors, I think, for AI. But what's impressive is how quickly the solutions have come and how fast we've integrated them. If you look back at things like the TV, how long it took TVs to come into operation. You look at the web, how long it took us to adopt the web and buy online, but how quickly AI has become a solution that dealers can action and put into play. I think there's some really clear and fantastic solutions that can do some great things early doors, but there's a world of opportunity within dealerships. So I'd say kind of from speaking out there, I think we're still quite in an early stage, an early adopter phase of AI. I think some in the last couple of years have gone a little quicker than others, where they can see opportunity to make it work, but it's down to those individual circumstances. But I do believe it's something that will only increase in the years ahead and give us opportunities to just do things differently and support the customer in a better way.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Matt, from you've got a global perspective on this stuff. I mean, you have businesses in the UK and in the States. So where does the UK sit in terms of this? Are we ahead of the curve or behind in the game? You know, the UK is a mature market, but how are we doing?
Yeah, great question, John. You know, we operate in 55 countries around the globe, and every market is unique in the way the dealers are operating and the way they're ready to address AI in their own business. I personally love the UK market. Our customers here are very thoughtful and deliberate about what they're doing. We have a ton of engagement up front, a lot of lean in to make it work right as it's coming out of the box. I contrast that to the US, where it's more of a fire, aim, shoot type of approach to this, where you just go do something and then you scramble back to figure out, okay, how do I need to adjust and make that actually work for my business? So the progress in the UK is fantastic. I love the partnerships we have here.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot. Back to John and Michael. I'm just trying to drill down here a bit. There'll be a lot of people listening in or watching today, and they'll want to know actually practically what's happening in your businesses in terms of sales and service process. And is AI, what you're using so far, making any tangible difference to operations and to the bottom line? John, can you take that first?
Yeah, I first came across AI probably 2 years ago. I went to NADA in Las Vegas, and I came across sales in AI. We looked at it, and we wanted to find a solution whereby we found that nearly 50% of our inquiries come into our websites after hours. And there's no guarantee, and it's all about speed of response to inquiries, and there's no guarantee between 7 and 8 o'clock 7 at night and 8 o'clock in the morning that those inquiries are going to be dealt with without the customers going elsewhere. So we were looking very definitely at sales AI. We came across Impel, and we decided to take them on, and it's made a significant difference to how we deal with inquiries, both as a team and also in the results that we get.
Okay, thanks, John. Michael, same question for you. A tangible difference to the operations bottom line, and can you say when you actually introduce AI into the business, just to get some timeline on it?
Yeah, so to be fair, a really similar timeline to John. Around sort of 2 years ago, we first went for an adoption of AI. Impel was also our chosen partner from a functionality of supporting the consumers. And a bit like John, we probably looked at it 2 ways. One, we just looked at the sheer volume of leads we were getting, how quickly we were responding to those leads, how well we were responding to those leads, and also then that out of hours piece, or when we're busy at a weekend, when we've got lots of customers coming through the door, how can we cope? And I feel like that's something that can adopt even to a smaller dealership, especially when you're limited on resource of people. Actually, that ability to handle a consumer quickly and most importantly consistently. So for us, we implemented that quite quickly. We saw it as an opportunity. We went quite aggressive with it, put it in areas where we thought we could make a real difference, and for us saw real benefits straight away. The volume of lead handling, appointments gained, out of hours. Some of the, I'm sure we'll come on to stats a little later, but some of those are quite impressive. What that has done to us, and really we saw that as an opportunity. So we've kind of delved into further afield from the sales piece into sort of chat functionality, which we're playing with at the moment. We're also looking at processing elements within the business, where we're trying to use different sort of partners and areas where. And stuff we can customize ourselves using some of the other chatbots that are out there, but been very careful with the data, because that is something that's key critical on making sure you're aware of where that data is going and what's happening with it. But we see real opportunities where we can refine process, we can refine that time saving. And for us, probably our biggest benefit is as we've expanded over the last 2 years in volume and growth, we haven't really had to add to that headcount drastically. And I think that's where AI has really benefited us, and probably where we're excited to see where it can go, because our goal, like all businesses, is to expand and grow, but sustainably expand and grow. And while we've all got large bottom line cost increases coming that we've had this year, we will inevitably have it next year and the year after, with where the geopolitical environment is right now. I think it's important that you've got an ability to try and keep that bottom line cost sensible, while skilling up your employees to be in a position where you can maximize what you're doing. So for us, it's been a really great experience, and it's consistency is the key. We're getting a consistent message to our consumers. and we're getting the consumers what they want. And I think that where we look at it, our AI, one of our AI bots is called Alice, and the amount of times you'll hear our staff being asked the question, I've spoken to Alice, is Alice in today? And just the fact that that's the proof in the pudding that consumers have enjoyed having that conversation, they've got what they needed, and they've come into the dealership from it. So I think that speaks for itself.
I think also, Michael, it's the fact that when you're speaking to a chatbot, don't you? And you're not actually going to get anywhere really with it. The AI that we employ creates genuine appointments, gets genuine data from customers, and when they're out of hours, there's no guarantee that the customer's not going to go elsewhere. But with the AI and the fact that it's getting numbers, because we work off customers' data, numbers and inquiries at the end of the day, and this certainly the sales AI is something that creates.
Okay, this is a question you touched on it there a second ago, Michael. But for John and then you, Michael, what just cutting in, what would you say, or what you see is, let's say, the 2 or 3 biggest opportunities for you in the next 18 months with AI? Or
I mean, we are very much a sales-orientated operation, and we don't see like, I know that the AI suppliers talk about man hours saved and things like that. We just look at basically how many appointments are we going to create so that we can give our appointments. And at the end of the day, we are still in the people business. We still need sales executives to deal with inquiries, and we look at how many appointments are created and what's our conversion of those appointments to sale, and that's where we see the real benefits.
Okay, that's great. And Michael, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so like John, refining the AI, refining in the context of how we can help the AI learn alongside what we're doing, and the integration, just like John said earlier on, the more refined that integration can be and the better the data can be, the stronger the AI can help and respond. So that's like a huge opportunity we see to continue to grow that. I think from where we're sort of challenging AI in other areas is around our processing power. Because we're large operations on one site, we're trying to get huge volumes of throughput through those businesses, and inevitably every department's trying to have the car at the same time as they're trying to process it. And how can you almost orchestrate that symphony? And when you've got a really good conductor, it's doable, but ultimately mistakes are made. And that is that communication done correctly versus can we use technology to preload that, allowing humans to put the color on it. But then ultimately, it allows our teams to manage the actual team on the shop floor to get the best production out of that department, rather than them trying to manage the system. And inevitably, like John said, our systems, a lot of them are quite challenging in how we can utilize the data that's there. So actually being able to use a large language learning model to digest that and spit out what we want the other end. There's some really cool stuff that I think over the next 18 months with some of the partners that we're working with, I think we can get some real benefits that ultimately allow us to get more throughput through. And we're limited by how much we can get through our systems. So if we want to sell another 2,000 cars or another 3,000 cars or 1,000 cars, we've got to get that extra process. So how can we maximize that within what we're doing? So I think there's some really cool stuff. And I think long-term, how far you can take it as far as the inspection of vehicles and stuff like that. There's some really clever machinery out there, and connecting all that together, I think can be really good fun.
That's great. Thanks you both. Matt, you see this from a completely different perspective. You see it. You did mention earlier how many countries you are in the world. Can you give any tangible examples of leading dealers doing best practice, doing stuff that's really making an impact and creating a ripple in the AI circle? Is that a reasonable question?
Yeah, sure, John. And I'll piggyback off of a couple of things that Michael said. First, customization or refinement, I think, is the word Michael used. That is the conversation of the day right now. When you look at the AI solutions that are in market from most providers today, they're not very smart. They're not very tuned into the context in which they operate. They do a great job of the conversational generation of the content, but they could do a lot better job of understanding the context of that content for who the dealer is, where that lead came from, who that consumer is, what the previous relationship of that customer is with the dealership, et cetera. So when you look at the technology that we've leaned into heavily over the last 2 quarters, it's exactly that kind of control. And I would equate this to training staff in your dealership. Michael keeps talking about it as adding more sophistication and deeper capability. It's about training. It's really about training. So we've delivered what we call the knowledge bank. It's a single AI brain that feeds all of the applications we operate. On day one, when you give it to a dealer, it's empty. That brain doesn't know anything about that dealership. It knows the context of it works in automotive. It knows the context of it's helping to support sales operations, but it doesn't know anything about the brands. It doesn't know anything about the dealer. It doesn't know anything about the processes. Our customers who are really doing it well spend a lot of time with that knowledge bank. Our best customers have over 250 responses that have been put into that system. That system is part of a RAG system, a retrieval augmented generation system, so that when the AI is ready to go talk to a customer, it can begin to tap into all of these sources and say, well, what do I know that's appropriate for a response to this particular question? Let's see, I need inventory. Let's see, I need some promotion information. Let's see, I need to know how the dealer handles test drives from vehicles that are off-site by 50 miles. All of that comes together to then generate a response. None of that happens at Impel. We can't do that for the store. The best stores have to dedicate staff and team that go do that training of the AI. The other best practice I'll relate to chat. Michael talked about chat as well. Chat has evolved tremendously with AI infused into it. It's no longer a human waiting for a conversation to come in. It's an opportunity to look at your website and say, where are the places my customers might ask questions? And let's put that question there as a call to action. And when a customer interacts with that call to action, up pops the chat window that already knows the context for the page that customer is on, that can say, how can I help you with this particular vehicle? Or it looks like you're trying to schedule service, or whatever that contextual situation is. Dealers that are doing this with chat, instead of just a box that pops up on the screen like most dealers do, but integrating it into the calls to action throughout the website, they're seeing a massive increase, a massive uptick in the number of leads that they're generating in their store.
That's great. Okay, thanks, Matt. Listen, you should in a second or two see a poll coming up where we're asking where you dealers, OEMs feel that AI could have the biggest impact on dealership today in terms of lead response, sales follow-up, content, customer service, and so on. That the results will come up towards the back end of this webinar. I'll move on to data. It's everywhere, isn't it? John and Michael, how prepared was your business from a data point of view, and what did you have to do to change in terms of data cleansing, systems integration, and can you give any idea or any indicator of the cost involved and in terms of pounds and management time and resource? John, first of all, to you.
I mean, if I'm being honest, is our database the cleanest in the world? No, probably not. I've never bought a business. We've expanded a lot in the last 20 years where we've bought a business and people have promised that their database is, squeaky clean and wonderful. And every time we've been disappointed to find that it's not. We employ 2 people who are constantly looking at our database. I get a report every day on errors within the database. So we are on it, but we're only as good as the people, the stuff that's going in there. One thing that does help is obviously the customers are filling in that data. And when they're filling in the data with regards to getting appointments, email addresses and stuff like that, telephone numbers, they're not going to put the wrong one in unless it's human error. I mean, we've had all kinds of shenanigans when it comes to databases, and so yeah, we have had to clean it up, and it's a continuous process.
Yeah, and Michael, the same question for you in terms of data cleansing, integration, and cost, and in time and money.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of our industry's biggest flaws is the amount of portals, logins. I mean, I think some of my staff have up to 20 plus different logins that they have to log into to different systems. And though the idea of a one system to fit all is the utopian dream, let's face it, it's unlikely to happen for a while yet, at least. I think getting yourself in a position where you've got the data as clean as you possibly can is a massive benefit to you as a company anyway. So it's something we work really hard to try and achieve. I think the hardest part, though, is how siloed our data is. Each different metric of wherever that data is held is in a different pot. Do those parties talk to each other? And half of the challenge point is that lack of integration. Certain systems are very closed-minded with how they want to integrate and who they want to integrate with. And that becomes a real issue. And I think the big key with, certainly with AI, is you finding the right partner that's right for you and the right information that'll work for you. And how that's going to interact with your customers, that's going to do the things that you want to do. So that freedom to choose that partner and get the right partner that's going to work is absolutely key critical. But then having that ability to have the data and allowing it to sync and link in, we've had to put a lot of work and effort in changing some of our platforms so that our web product is data first. Our DMS is still king for pricing and accounting, but actually our content around the product is far more based around where, that we need that information in the web portal so our AI can pick up on it, so we can be more enriched and deal with that customer. But ultimately then the customer database is still held within those DMSs. So there's bits where we'd love it to be cleaner and move through, and we're working really hard to improve that. And I think that's a never ending journey that we've got for the next few years to try and really maximize that, because the more you unlock, the more information you give, the easier it is for the AI to give the correct answer. And if you think how we are as consumers wanting to buy products, you want it to be as slick and as simple as possible. We all want, it's all about ease of journey, but we want that personalization in there. And that's when some of the great online retailers, the great physical store retailers really win, is when you have that personalization to a customer and allow that customer to have that great opportunity and journey with you. And like as John says, if you haven't got that data mapped correctly and it's only as good as the people put it in, then how do you support the customer in the right way? So I think it's definitely been a challenge, but one that we've adapted, and it's definitely taken quite a lot of management hours. And certainly within our IT team within the site, they've put a lot of work and effort in, mixed in with the support, a huge amount of effort from Impel and our other web partners to pull that data together to make it work.
Yeah, I was just going to come to that with Matt. I mean, Matt, at Impel and indeed other suppliers, what can you do and what do you do to help dealers get up to speed on the data, ensuring the quality is good?
Yeah, I mean, John and Michael hit on it. A lot of the problem in this industry is the number of vendors that exist and all of the data silos that have to operate as a result of that. And each one of those vendors looks at that pool of data they have as their moat. As they see AI running towards them, they're thinking, I have to protect that data. I have to protect that data. I need to build my own AI on top of that data. And while there may be some players that are successful at doing that, businesses should remember what they're really good at and stick to what they do, and partner with their dealer customers to be successful all around. And so what I mean by that is Impel is effectively a staffing agency. I mean, we're not, of course we're not. We're a technology company, but dealers come to us to hire augmented staff that help their dealerships operate better. Those staff need to have access to the data to operate. When you try to lock everything in as though it's your moat and not make it available, what you're forcing the dealer to do is make a decision of, do I swap that vendor out to go to one that will give me access to my data? Or do I find a way to work around that constraint so that I can still get at that data and use it in the systems that I need to use it in? And there's a lot of approaches to do that. We, of course, love it best when there's APIs available and you can just go get the data out of the system and it's shared freely. We think that aligns with what dealerships are trying to accomplish, which is a common view of the customer that can be messaged in a consistent way. We don't need to own that customer database. We do for a lot of our dealers. We take the DMS and we cleanse it when they onboard. We find that 60 to 70% of the records are just bad records and they end up disappearing in that process. And then it becomes this maintenance effort of, you have this record of your customer. How do you continue to append more and more information about them? We look at that as an eventing system that helps to drive conversations. So vendors that want to lock things into a silo and build their own, good luck. vendors that lock it into the silo but are willing to participate in an ecosystem where they can send payloads and triggers out to AI providers to generate conversations, that's a little bit better. The vendors that are out there that open their systems up and empower their dealers to be successful, I think those are the ones that are going to find they have long-term partnerships with their dealers, and they're also going to help the AI providers enable the best customer experience possible.
Okay, thanks, Matt. We're moving on. We've got the second poll going up now. You should be seeing it in a minute or two, where we ask, what's the main reason you haven't used AI? You don't know where to start, unsure what it would actually do, worried about the cost or complexity, and still watching to see what other competitors are doing. So we'll catch up with that later on. Matt, back to you again. What can dealers learn from what's worked or not worked in the US? If you could give a few practical examples, particularly of not working.
Oh boy, of not working. Well, this isn't Impel, but I've seen a lot of things not work out there. People have read, I'm sure, the AutoNation or the Automotive News headlines that talk about the car that was sold for $1 to a consumer. That's certainly something not to do. Those were players that entered the market quickly, thought, boy, you can just turn an LLM onto this data and it's going to go do its thing, and didn't think through the implications of what happens if you don't put general competitive models in place and price check and control models in place and other security capabilities that are necessary to keep the AI in line. The big push now is to break these agents down into much smaller agents that specialize in individual tasks. We call it agentic. It's a way of taking this monolith that used to do everything, but had a tendency to hallucinate because it had access to too much data and could, make the wrong choices in any given moment, into these very discrete agents that have specific jobs and roles that they do. There'll be one agent that faces out to the consumer. That'll be Alice, I guess is what Michael's named it, or Ava, as some of our customers have, or Betsy, or whatever it might be. And that agent, instead of doing everything, will now turn to a series of smaller agents that do specific tasks. You're really good at finding the right car. You're really good at scheduling. You're really good at understanding promotions and incentives. All of that comes back into a single agent to deliver a response. So maybe not a best practice, John, but an inherent evolution in the industry and how it's making the process work better for dealers by containerizing capabilities into much smaller segments. To me, the real power of that is what's going to enable for our customers to light up the journeys that they want to light up. When we work across all these markets, what we see is very specific requests that come from individual markets. Dealers are now going to have the power to be able to activate those journeys, whether they are a hand raiser who sent a lead into you, or you had some ambient agents that were running around in your data looking for signals that this customer might be turning into a shopper again, and suddenly creating a data-driven lead that reaches out to that consumer to engage with it. So to give you some ideas on how to start, I think dealers should be very thoughtful about, I'm going to get into this AI business with sales. I'm going to start with the easiest use case, which is all of these internet leads, all of these website leads that are coming into my store, into my locations, that are difficult for the humans to manage. What you really want to do is empower your humans to work the best leads, to do more outbound calling, to do more outreach to their book of business, and have the AI take that lead the minute it comes in and nurture it. Ask the initial qualifying questions, get some lean in from the consumer, try to move it all the way to an appointment that gets set for that salesperson in the store. When it can't get set, you need to have a human on the loop, somebody that's there and ready to understand that conversations are happening in the AI all the time. And every now and then one's going to pop up and it's going to land in a queue where somebody has to take action on it. And so we're in a moment right now where I think dealerships need to start thinking about, what is that role in my store? 20 years ago, we created an internet sales manager to pick up these new things called internet leads. Well, fast forward today, we need a human on the loop manager, somebody that's there that can do the triage when the AI has questions that it can't handle itself. So if I had one recommendation, it would be that to stores. Think about how you're going to operationalize this so it can be successful, and think about who that directly responsible individual is that's going to manage that on the loop process for your stores.
That's great. Thanks, Matt. Back to John and Michael again. I'm just and a topic that will really be of keen interest to any dealer listening in. What you invested in AI? So, what kind of results are you seeing so far, commercially, operationally, and how are you measuring value and deciding where to invest next? Can I go to you, John?
Yeah, do you want me to give you some stats?
Yep.
So for August, I'm going to have to read these because it sent out 54,562 emails and texts, which allegedly gave 3,637 hours back to the sales team. I don't particularly get that, but that's what they tell me. 40% of lead engagement was done out of hours, and 47% of appointments that were set by AI were done after hours. So basically, it was working when our sales execs were at home watching the telly. They were producing appointments and conversations for the next morning, so that obviously the sales execs or the sales manager can distribute those because there's a point where AI actually hands off to a salesperson or a sales executive, and obviously the next day the sales execs go in. Let's see what inquiries we've had overnight. It was created 249 appointments. 117 of those were booked actually outside working hours.
Okay, that's great. And Michael?
So to be fair, I mean, we see really similar results, which is mega. I mean, like 33% of our leads are dealt with out of hours, which is, just like John said, that for me is so important. That's why, we want to make sure the customers will be looked after. Interesting one for us, 67% of customers switch to SMS. Historically, whenever we'd be doing lead handling, we'd be just trying to ring you. Then we kind of got into the idea of, okay, well, you've emailed us, we're going to email you. But actually, technically, the consumers just click the lead on the computer screen. They're not physically typed an email to us. So how do we know that they want to use email to respond back to us? So the fact that we've been able to switch between that, I think, is really important, and allowing the consumer to interact the way they want to interact. And for us, it's added growth, year on year. We grew massively last year. We're up again this year in our growth. It's not the sole purpose behind that, but it's a really great opportunity. It's given our teams the time to spend, they're not dealing with that day-to-day task of responding back, and actually therefore they're spending the time with the customers at the right point.
I think also, Michael, it's important to mention that actually the AI, we call it Ella, actually follows up on customers, so that if it's handed off to a sales executive, and we all know what sales executives are like. Sometimes they don't always ring the customer back. They get found out.
100%.
Because AI will actually chase up the customer, and basically the customer might say, well, I've not been contacted yet.
Yeah. Well, I think another one that I think it's roughly around, I think it's around 30-ish% of our customers don't respond for 2 days. So we might have tried 2 or 3 times and we've deaded the lead by that point, but actually they've responded, engaged, and then reintroduced. And I think that's where you look at it. We've obviously got processes that we put in play because we don't want to hound the customer. We want the customer to feel like they're not being pressured. But this soft approach of being able to keep in contact with the customer, touching base, allows that customer to decide when they want to interact with us. And I think that's where the benefit of that follow-up piece is huge. And it's not always, if you're following up on phone, not everyone wants to speak on phone, whereas a gentle text message, gentle email, that allows you, and it allows our teams to work alongside that. So I think that's, I completely agree, John.
Okay, that's great. Matt, what from your perspective, what does good performance look like? What are the benchmarks to aim for? Maybe 2 or 3 benchmarks you can give us?
I mean, benchmarks are hard because it varies so much by market, by dealer, by brand, etc. Yeah. I think what dealers should be focusing on is what are the total number of appointments we're setting and how has that changed over time? What are the number of appointments that are being set by the AI entirely? What are the number of appointments that are being set after hours by the AI? And then what number of appointments have a handoff from a human, from an AI to a human, but end up in an appointment as well? And then equally important is what's the show rate on each type of those appointments, right? Yeah. Sometimes you can goose those numbers. You want to make sure that you're looking at we're getting more and we're actually delivering more. And that should translate into more sales at the end of the day. The real metrics our dealers tend to look at are SG&A metrics. What's happening to the efficiency in my store and what are my salespeople doing on a day-to-day basis? We pull historical data when we load the system, and then we continue to monitor it forward. And what we see is a dramatic shift in the number of emails and text messages that are being sent out from a salesperson to a customer to a lot more phone calls that are happening. That's happening because the AI is picking up the emails and the text messages, and it's handling that part of the conversation, which is freeing the salesperson up to focus on the phone calls that they can make to the warmer customers, to their book of business, to their referrals, etc. So when you look at that, you have an opportunity to think about what's the impact on the efficiency of my stores. I don't know what the numbers are specifically in the UK, but in the US, the average salesperson in a dealership, let me get this back. In the average dealership in the US, the average salesperson sells 10 cars per month. When you look at that, if you took a typical store, say 100 units that are being sold, there's one person in that store that's selling 60 units and 9 more that are selling 40 units. The best dealerships that do business with us have changed that ratio from 1 to 10 to 1 to 15 because they let the AI handle a bunch of it. They drive the best opportunities to that best salesperson that was doing 60 of the units already. And they let that long tail get distributed across a fewer number of people, a fewer number of sales folks. Instead of 9, maybe they have 5. And so they get to a ratio of 15 cars per salesperson in the store. Also an interesting metric to think about.
Yeah, I can see John nodding there to that. Yeah. Okay. The final poll is going out now. It's wants to describe your view on AI in dealerships. The first answer, particularly cruel, is just hype. It's useful for content, good for customer engagement, transforms the way we work, and so on. The results for that will be up in a few minutes. So, John and Michael, where do you see the next wave of opportunity for AI in the dealership? John?
I think from our point of view, because obviously Michael deals in a lot of used cars. From an after-sales perspective, we connect with cars, and we have connected cars, and that has proved very beneficial. We're predicting when customers are going to come in for service. We get messages to alert us when a light comes on a car and all that kind of good stuff. What I would like AI to do would be perhaps interact with that and contact the customer. So, because obviously we spend a fortune on call centers, phoning customers. I mean, I even remember stuffing envelopes, sending reminder letters to service customers to have the car serviced, and that was a long time ago. So, you know, if they can come up with an AI which can interact with a connected car piece, whereby they can speak to us or send a text to the customer, say, "Look, your car's due for service. Can press 1 to book it in," or whatever. I think that would be really beneficial for car dealerships.
Okay, that's fine. Listen, I've got a few questions sent in by people listening in. I can kick off with that. If I can get quick ones from first John, then Michael, then Matt. James Lees has asked, what's the panel's views on being upfront with customers about the fact that they are engaging with AI and not a human?
Well, I mean, I use AI every day. I think most people do. You know, it's on your phone. I probably use AI more than I use Google. If I want a question answered, I use either Grok or ChatGPT. I think people are getting used to it. Don't get me wrong. I think they may think that it's taking over the world and people are spying them and all that kind of stuff. But I think people are engaged.
Yeah. And Michael?
Yeah, I think as long as you're delivering a great customer service, then I personally don't see the issue with it. I appreciate the fact that, you know, it's a bot, but at the same time, you know, a human makes a mistake and we don't get upset about a human making a mistake. And more often than not, the database that it's working from is immensely truthful, and the way it handles things, it handles it immensely well. So we're quite comfortable. There's certain areas where, in, say, for example, like the chat facility, where that's more prevalent of having AI robotics in it, where we feel like that's obvious to be a customer because the responses are just a bit more AI sort of felt the way they come across. But when you actually look at some of the more detailed things like where we're doing with lead handling, there's so much more apathy within the actual responses. There's so much more better communication that it feels so much more humanified. Therefore, then actually communicating that it's AI will only probably aggravate the customer, is our opinion. And no different to where when someone comes in and says, oh, I've been speaking to Alice, we don't shut them down instantly and go, oh, that's just an AI bot, because you're just putting the customer at a disadvantage and the negative straight away. We just ultimately look at it and just say, look, she works part of the contact center team, but this is the site team here to deal with you. So I personally, if it's not to a detriment to the customer, and actually it's delivering a great experience, I personally don't see the issue with it.
Okay. I'll move on.
Oftentimes, John, it comes down to regulatory or legal requirements more than anything else. Consumers will know or not know, and it doesn't matter. As John Smyth observed, a lot of times people come in and ask for your agent and want to talk to them. And you have to train the dealer to say, that's an offsite assistant or something along those lines. We have other dealers who are adamant that they want to display that it's AI, and they do that on every message. And quite honestly, it doesn't change the behavior. The consumer still walks in the store and asks for Alice. Hey, I was talking to Alice. Could I still see her, even though it's an AI?
Okay, I've got a question. Have you seen a reduction in jobs as a result of AI in the business, John?
No, we haven't. I think it's more evolution rather than replacement. I think it's there to enhance and increase the performance of the people actually in the business rather than getting rid of them at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Michael?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, it's very much about we've been able to expand without adding. It's probably the way I put it, rather than adding. And it's allowed us to work alongside. Very much we are still a people business. And I think there's opportunity to be smarter with it. And as far as your investments, where you put those investments, whether that's people or technology over time. But today, ground one, I think it's about doing more with what you've got rather than doing less with what you've got.
Yeah.
I think also, John, I mean, when we first put it in, there was a bit of, the salespeople were very dubious of that happening. It soon became clear to them that it was there to enhance the process rather than hinder the process. After being using it for over 12 months, our renewal came up, and I asked all our sales managers, I said, Luke, do you want to carry it on? Because, it does come at a cost. To a person, every single person said, yeah, we want to keep it.
Okay. I've got a question for you, John, on the franchise funds. It's when it comes to car brands, are some OEMs ahead of the game with AI and their interaction with dealer groups than others? You don't necessarily have to mention names, but if just give us your take, positive take.
I think some OEMs are very protective of their own data, quite rightly, and so don't like a third party interacting with that. I think, though, they're going to have to come through to the 21st century because that is the way things are going. I think some of perhaps the new entrants to the market are more open to use AI in the way they do things.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question. I'm not quite sure. I have a question. Do you address it to Matt? I don't know whether you can deal with it. Do you have any concerns about the environmental impact of AI?
I mean, yes, personally, I have concerns about the impact of AI on the environment. It is a huge consumer of water and energy, and I think that's a societal issue that we all are going to need to address. And as a product owner and a product designer, we have some ethical and moral responsibility in that to think about the weight of the systems that we're creating and to design things that are efficient and effective and minimize the impact on the environment. That's a conscious thing to do. You have to be thoughtful about the design of the tools that you're building and operating. At the end of the day, I think that also benefits the consumer because when you are thoughtful about the simplicity and design of it, you tend to drive a better consumer experience that's more seamless and more fluid for the consumer.
That's great. Okay, I'll just move quickly on to some of the polls. The first one was where do you feel AI could have the biggest impact on your dealership? Lead response times got 39%. I don't know whether you can see the results of the polls there. Can you, John and Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael, you can. Yeah. Is there any surprise there for you?
I think the interesting part for me is obviously one where we're looking at long term is around the interactions as far as supporting the consumer digitally online and how that can be helped by language learning models, because our AI chatbot does a really good job of doing that, but integrating that within some of our search capabilities is something that we're intrigued to kind of play with. And I think there's a supportive from a consumer point of view that I think is something that probably people are missing at the moment. But ultimately, because lead response is, like Matt said, it's the quickest one to get into. It's no surprise to me that that's where people are putting their kind of attention to start with. But there's opportunities all over your business with it, dependent on the systems and tech stack you've got.
And the second poll asked, what was the main reason you haven't used AI yet? 50% of people said they're already using it. 19% said they didn't know where to start, and 4% were unsure what it was going to do. Cost and complexity by over 10%. So, and the final poll was which statement best describe your view of AI? And oh, good. Just hype got 0%. That's reassuring. I don't know, Michael, well, you can see it's good for customer engagement, 10%. Transform the way we work, 71%. So I think that gives an indication. Right, time's running out. I've just got, for the three of you, I've got, if there's one single issue you want to hammer home today, and one takeaway from this session, what is it? I don't know. John, do you have any advice?
Obviously, AI it's not going away. I'd encourage people to embrace it, and certainly from a dealership point of view, we need a solution which can deal with enquiries 24/7 at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Michael, do you have anything?
I think for me is no matter what size your business is, no matter how complex your business is, there's an opportunity there to work smarter. And just by even starting with something as simple as ChatGPT and utilizing it for writing an email or writing a description of the car, even as simple as that, that can be a time saver to you. It won't be 100% accurate, but it'll be 99% accurate most of the way. And that's where your human knowledge base point will come in. And it's people supporting AI and AI supporting people. It's a two-way street that you've got to get right, and you've got to bring people with you. So if you can pull those little levers, I think you can be in a great place with AI. That's
great. And Matt, finally to you.
Yeah, it feels like 1998 and the internet lead business to me all over again. We are in the very early days of this business, and there is so much that's going to happen and so much that's going to change. Dealers right now have an opportunity to make process changes in their sales department that have amazing efficiency gains for their store. They have the opportunity to make changes with their chat applications to drive calls to action on their website that generate a lot more opportunity for the store. And John, you mentioned handling phone calls. The next innovation that we think is going to be here isn't all the digital voice assistants you see everywhere. Consumers hate those. It's a terrible experience. But what consumers are interested in is agentic voicemail, where when the store can't answer, when the human can't get to it, the agentic voicemail picks up and asks questions and does good things for your business, like getting opt-ins to SMS, and allows you to track resolution rate and resolution time. That's coming next, and it's going to be really interesting how efficiencies in the dealership change as a result of that. For dealers to truly be successful with all this innovation that's just starting, like 1998, where people started to talk about having internet sales managers, we need to start talking about who manages the human on the loop activity, because that is going to become dominant in your store. The humans are going to become super important for the intelligent intellect and capability that they have on the ground. It'll be a different type of human, a different set of skills and jobs that are being done, but it is going to deliver an exceptional customer experience that is remarkably powerful for the dealerships, but also remarkably powerful for the consumers, who are going to feel like they're finally empowered in the shopping process.
Great, Matt. Yeah, you kept the best to last. Okay, listen, time's run out, and we need to wrap it up now. But I hope everyone who tuned in today gains insight into AI and what it can do for dealers and the opportunity it provides for better business. So many thanks to Matt Muilenburg at Impel, John Smyth at Swansway, and Michael Bell at Available Cars for taking part today. So until next time, goodbye.